Have you ever wondered what goes on inside the walls of one of the largest chocolate factories in the world? Imagine a place where mountains of cocoa beans arrive fresh from tropical farms, where massive machines hum day and night, and where the unmistakable aroma of chocolate fills every corner. This is the hidden world behind the candy bars we buy at the store, and today we're pulling back the curtain. Inside this enormous facility, more than 5,000 tons of cocoa are transformed every year into the sweet treats Americans can't live without. With advanced technology, precise craftsmanship, and a tradition that stretches back centuries, this factory is part of a global chocolate industry worth more than $30 billion, supplying rich flavors that delight people in over 100 countries. Chocolate isn't just candy, it's culture, it's history, and for many of us, it's comfort. Its story begins not in a factory, but thousands of years ago with the ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica. The Maya and Aztec people prepared cacao as a bitter, frothy beverage mixed with spices, consumed during rituals and revered as a gift from the gods. When European explorers arrived in the 16th century, they carried cacao across the ocean, sweetened it with sugar, and sparked a craze among Europe's elite. By the time it made its way to America in the 17th century, chocolate was a luxury reserved for the wealthy. But the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Innovations in processing and mass production transformed chocolate into an everyday indulgence, and by the 19th century it was firmly embedded in the American diet. Today it's hard to imagine Halloween, Valentine's Day, or even a simple movie night without it. Step inside the factory and the first chapter of chocolate making begins far away, in the tropical regions where cacao trees grow. The main ingredient, cocoa beans, come from the pods of the Theobroma cacao tree, a delicate plant that thrives only within 20 degrees of the equator. Farmers who cultivate these trees must be highly skilled, because harvesting requires precision and care. Cacao pods grow directly from the trunk of the tree, and workers carefully cut them by hand with machetes to avoid damaging the bark. Each pod holds between 30 and 50 moist, ivory-colored beans wrapped in a sweet, sticky pulp. The moment they are opened, the transformation begins. Once harvested, the beans go through one of the most critical stages in the journey: fermentation. At first glance, fermentation might sound unappealing, but it's the step that gives chocolate its soul. Farmers place the beans, still surrounded by their pulp, into wooden boxes or baskets where they are covered with banana leaves. Over the course of 5 to 8 days, natural yeasts and bacteria break down the pulp and trigger complex chemical reactions. The temperature inside the pile rises to between 104 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit, while the beans are stirred or turned daily to ensure even fermentation. This process destroys bitter flavors, develops rich chocolatey notes, and even darkens the beans to their familiar brown hue. Without fermentation, chocolate would taste flat and unrecognizable. After fermentation, the beans must be dried to preserve them and prevent mold. Traditionally, farmers spread them out on large mats or patios under the hot tropical sun, carefully raking them several times a day for up to a week. The goal is to reduce their moisture content from around 60% to less than 7%. Too much moisture and the beans will spoil, too little and they become brittle and difficult to process. In some modern operations, drying is sped up with mechanical dryers, but sun-drying remains the preferred method for many farmers because it develops a more rounded flavor. Once dry, the beans are bagged in burlap sacks and shipped to chocolate factories around the world, ready for the next stage of their journey. When the beans finally arrive at the factory, they don't look, or smell, like the chocolate we know. They're rough, earthy, and slightly sour. Before they can be transformed, they must be cleaned and sorted. Workers and machines remove impurities like stones, twigs, and pieces of dried pulp. Next comes one of the most important stages: roasting. Roasting brings out the deep, complex flavors we associate with chocolate. Depending on the type of chocolate being made, the beans are roasted at temperatures ranging from 250 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours. A light roast preserves fruity, floral notes, while a darker roast emphasizes bitterness and intensity. As the beans crack and their shells loosen, the factory fills with the intoxicating scent of chocolate that's impossible to resist. Once roasted, the beans move to winnowing, a process that separates the edible cocoa nibs from the brittle outer shells. High-powered fans and vibrating machines crack the beans open, blowing away the lighter shells and leaving behind pure nibs, the heart of chocolate. These nibs are small, crunchy pieces packed with fat, flavor, and potential. If you've ever tasted raw nibs, you know they're intensely bitter and earthy, but they contain everything needed to become smooth, velvety chocolate. The next step is grinding, where the nibs are crushed into a thick liquid paste called cocoa liquor. Despite the name, there's no alcohol here, just a blend of cocoa solids and cocoa butter, the natural fat found in cacao beans. As the nibs are ground under heavy steel rollers, friction raises the temperature, melting the cocoa butter and creating a silky, rich liquid. From here, chocolate can take many paths. Some of the liquor is pressed to separate cocoa powder from cocoa butter, while the rest continues its journey into conching and refining. Conching is where chocolate truly transforms. Invented in the late 1800s, this process involves mixing and aerating the chocolate for hours, sometimes even days, in giant steel tanks with rotating arms. The motion smooths the texture, evaporates unwanted acids and develops flavor. Imagine kneading dough, but with liquid chocolate that grows shinier and more aromatic as time goes on. The longer the conching, the smoother and more luxurious the final product. Once conched, the chocolate must be tempered, a delicate process of heating and cooling to control the crystallization of cocoa butter. Proper tempering ensures that chocolate snaps cleanly, melts evenly in your mouth, and has that glossy finish we all love. Without it, chocolate would look dull, crumbly, and streaky. Tempering requires extreme precision. A few degrees too hot or too cold and the structure collapses. In factories, tempering is fully automated, with computer-controlled machines carefully cycling the chocolate through exact temperature curves. Finally, the chocolate is poured into molds, cooled, and wrapped. Whether it's bars, truffles, or seasonal shapes like Easter bunnies and holiday Santas, every piece starts the same way, with cacao beans harvested by hand thousands of miles away. As conveyor belts carry rows of glossy chocolate bars into automated wrapping machines, the journey comes full circle. Packaging isn't just about protection, it's about presentation. Brightly colored foils and branded wrappers make chocolate irresistible on store shelves, where millions of people around the world grab them without thinking of the incredible journey behind each bite. Chocolate factories in America and beyond are marvels of modern food engineering. They combine the wisdom of ancient traditions with cutting-edge technology to produce treats at an astonishing scale. And yet, despite the industrial machinery, chocolate remains deeply personal. Every bite carries with it the legacy of the farmers who grew the cacao, the scientists who perfected the recipes, and the workers who keep the machines running. It's a product of art, science, and culture, something that has shaped holidays, comforted us in hard times, and given us joy for generations. Chocolate has always been more than just a sweet treat. It's a universal language of comfort, celebration, and indulgence. Whether it's unwrapping a bar on a road trip, receiving a box of truffles on Valentine's Day, or melting a square into warm milk on a cold winter night, chocolate brings a sense of joy that few foods can match. But have you ever wondered what it really takes to turn a bitter cacao bean harvested in faraway tropical farms into the smooth, creamy, and irresistible chocolate bar sitting on your store shelf? The transformation from bean to bar is nothing short of a marvel, blending old-world craftsmanship with modern technology, and once you see the journey, you'll never look at your favorite candy bar the same way again. The magic begins with the roasting process, which is carefully tailored not only to eliminate any lingering bacteria but also to unlock the deep, complex flavors hidden inside each cacao bean. Just like coffee, the roast level dramatically impacts the final taste. Lighter roasting highlights fruity and floral notes, while darker roasting brings out bold, nutty, and caramel undertones. Factories use enormous drum roasters or state-of-the-art fluidized bed systems to evenly heat thousands of pounds of beans at once, filling the air with a rich, intoxicating aroma that signals the very first step in chocolate's transformation. Once the beans have been roasted to perfection, the next task is to remove the brittle outer shells. Using a combination of screening machines and powerful air currents, the shells are separated from the prized cacao nibs, the pure, flavorful hearts of the bean. It's these nibs that hold the potential to become chocolate as we know it. The real artistry begins during grinding and conching. The exposed nibs are crushed and pressed into a dense paste known as cocoa mass, or cocoa liquor, though despite the name, it contains no alcohol. Special machines equipped with massive rotating stones or steel rollers slowly refine the nibs into a silky mixture, breaking down gritty particles and releasing the natural cocoa butter hidden within. As the grinding continues, ingredients like sugar, vanilla, or milk powder are added depending on the type of chocolate being made, dark, milk, or white. This step isn't rushed. In fact, some chocolate makers let the conching process run for more than 24 hours. The longer the mass is worked, the smoother and creamier the chocolate becomes, while unwanted bitter and acidic notes evaporate, leaving behind only a perfectly balanced flavor profile. Imagine the difference between chewing on raw cacao nibs, which are sharp and bitter, and tasting a velvety spoonful of melted chocolate. The transformation is nothing short of miraculous. Once the chocolate mass has achieved its luxurious texture, it's time for tempering, a step that separates high-quality chocolate from the rest. Tempering involves carefully raising, cooling, and reheating the chocolate to specific temperatures in order to control the formation of cocoa butter crystals. Done correctly, it gives chocolate that glossy shine, that satisfying snap when you break a bar, and the smooth melt-in-your-mouth finish we crave. Done poorly, the chocolate becomes dull, streaky, and crumbly. This is why chocolatiers treat tempering like a science and an art, using precision equipment that ensures consistency on an industrial scale. After tempering, the liquid chocolate is poured into molds, whether it's classic rectangular bars, festive holiday shapes, or bite-sized candies. To make sure no air bubbles remain trapped inside, the molds are vibrated gently until the chocolate settles evenly. Then, the trays are cooled in a controlled environment, solidifying the liquid gold into the iconic bars we know and love. But the journey doesn't stop there. Once hardened, each bar undergoes a rigorous quality control check. Automated sensors and trained workers examine the bars for imperfections, whether it's a crack, a bubble, or a flaw in texture. Only the best make it through to packaging, where the bars are wrapped in eye-catching foil, paper, or recyclable film that protects their freshness. That final packaging moment is more important than it seems. It doesn't just keep the chocolate safe, it also builds the emotional connection between you and the product. Think about it, the shiny gold foil of a luxury bar, the playful bright colors of a candy brand, or the nostalgic red wrapper of a childhood favorite. The packaging is as much a part of the chocolate experience as the flavor itself. Once wrapped, the bars are packed into cases and shipped to distributors, retailers, and eventually into your hands. From the factory floor to supermarket shelves, the process is streamlined, efficient, and carefully monitored to deliver the same consistent taste every single time. Of course, modern chocolate production isn't only about indulgence, it's also about responsibility. With growing awareness around sustainability, many factories are rethinking their environmental footprint. From harnessing renewable energy sources to recycling water and minimizing waste, chocolate makers are finding ways to balance tradition with innovation. Some brands even partner directly with cacao farmers in countries like Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador to ensure fair wages, ethical sourcing, and better living conditions for farming communities. This not only strengthens the supply chain but also builds consumer trust, especially for U.S. audiences who are increasingly conscious about where their food comes from. There's also a push toward reducing packaging waste, using biodegradable films, or switching to paper wraps to cut down on plastic use. Every bar you buy today may represent not only delicious taste but also a small step toward a greener, fairer chocolate industry. Now, let's pause for a moment to appreciate what happens behind the scenes. Picture those farmers hand-harvesting cacao pods, splitting them open with machetes, and scooping out the pulp-covered seeds that eventually ferment and dry under the tropical sun. Those very beans travel thousands of miles across oceans, through ports and factories, only to be roasted, ground, and transformed into something so universally beloved. Each bite of chocolate carries with it a story that spans continents. A story of nature, human labor, artistry, and science working in harmony. For chocolate lovers in the U.S., this journey might feel distant, but every bar on the shelf is a connection to a global story. The next time you pick up a Hershey's bar, a Ghirardelli square, or a Lindt truffle, remember the roasting, grinding, conching, tempering, and molding that went into making it possible. Remember that behind the simple joy of unwrapping a bar lies centuries of history, innovation, and human effort. From ancient Mayan and Aztec civilizations who first consumed cacao as a bitter ceremonial drink, to European chocolatiers who sweetened and refined it into a luxury item, to today's massive factories producing millions of bars a day, the story of chocolate is also the story of how food can unite cultures and evolve through time. And while chocolate is often associated with indulgence, it also has surprising benefits when enjoyed in moderation. Dark chocolate, in particular, is packed with antioxidants like flavonoids that support heart health and may even improve mood. That little rush of happiness you feel after eating chocolate isn't just in your head, it's chemistry at work. Factories know this, which is why the industry continues to innovate with new flavors, healthier options, and even sugar-free varieties that cater to modern lifestyles without compromising on taste. By the time you savor that first bite of a perfectly tempered chocolate bar, countless steps have already taken place. From roasting to grinding, from molding to packaging, from sustainability efforts to global shipping logistics. The process is meticulous, fascinating, and deeply rewarding. Chocolate isn't just candy, it's craftsmanship, tradition, and global connection wrapped into one sweet package. So the next time you break a bar in half and hear that crisp snap, Take a moment to appreciate the journey it's been on. That small square of chocolate in your hand represents centuries of history, modern science, and the passion of everyone involved in its creation. And if you're amazed by the blend of technology, artistry, and sustainability behind your favorite chocolate, imagine what other foods go through similar journeys. Every factory has its secrets, every product its own fascinating story. So if you enjoyed exploring how chocolate is made from bean to bar, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes journeys into the foods we love. After all, every bite has a story and we're here to tell it.